Happy Hallows Eve, everyone, and welcome to Ghost Boy's Top 5 Best Animated Disney XD Halloween Specials. I had considered making a list of the best Nickelodeon Halloween specials or the best Cartoon Network Halloween specials, but I feel like the majority of people already know about most of those. Most likely because of the DVD sets, but unfortunately, Disney wasn't lucky enough to get a DVD compilation of all of the animated Halloween specials. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people know about many of the Disney XD Halloween specials, and since I mainly cover underrated, overhated, and unappreciated things on my channel, I figured I'd be the first one to make a video exclusively discussing the best Disney XD Halloween specials. I'm not ranking any of these specials in any kind of particular order, but number one is definitely my all-time favorite. So let me take you all back in time with me, to the days when I lived in my grandmother's musty, dusty, crusty, cozy basement, and I would sit in my grandfather's chair and watch Disney XD on my old-ass box television set, because I couldn't afford a flat screen. So let's get started, ghouls and goblins, and like Jack Skellington would say, this is Halloween. Star versus the forces of evil. Hungry Larry. After Mr. Diaz fails to scare some kids with his haunted house, Star and Jenna summon a demon named Hungry Larry to come and haunt the house, but things take an unexpected turn for the worst. I watched a bunch of this show when it first came out years ago, but then I moved around a lot and I was just too busy to go back and get caught up. But I've always wanted to go back and finish watching the whole show, because I really enjoyed it. In this special, Marco's dad tries making a haunted house, but the kids in the neighborhood think it's lame, and that really upsets Marco's dad. So Star decides to help make it scarier by summoning Hungry Larry. Hungry Larry is basically like Bloody Mary, except he eats people and he's genuinely scary. At first, he seems like a quiet, nice, nerdy ghost, but then he transforms into a horrifying monster, and when he talks, black sludge and Halloween candy pours out of his mouth. It's pretty funny how accurate the dad's haunted house is to some of the haunted houses that I went to as a kid. And the reactions by the children to the dad's haunted house is pretty hilarious, not gonna lie. Star's costume and Marco's costumes are both really cool and super adorable. And this episode has a really spooky ending. So if you're searching for a funny animated Halloween special that's a little bit scary, then I recommend watching Hungry Larry. Camp Lake Bottom, the Lake Bottom House of Horrors. Mwahaha! The trio of friends enter a Lake Bottom House of Horrors, only to discover that they themselves will soon become the Funhouse's next attractions. Camp Lake Bottom is a very underrated TV show in my opinion. It's the classic cliché story of a trio of friends. The awkward leader, the dumb, chubby comic relief, and the smart, token female character. This group of characters all become friends when they accidentally get sent to the wrong summer camp, and end up at one where the camp counselors are all monsters. Zombies, Bigfoot, and every other creature you can think of. Naturally, at first, all the kids are terrified, but once they realize the monsters aren't trying to hurt them, they end up befriending them. This show is basically like Gravity Falls mixed with Johnny Test, Total Drama Island, and Monster House. I actually remember the first time I ever heard about this show. It was when I was watching Season 2 of Gravity Falls, airing on Disney XD. There was literally an advertisement for Camp Lake Bottom, and it said something like, "If you love Gravity Falls, then you will definitely love Camp Lake Bottom." I looked for that commercial online recently, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But anyways, this show definitely takes a lot of inspiration from Gravity Falls. In this special, they are literally celebrating Summerween. This special in particular is a lot of fun. McGee, Gretchen, and Squirt are not in the mood to celebrate Summerween, because they are expecting another lame attempt at getting scared by the camp counselors. But once they enter the new, extreme haunted funhouse, They quickly realize this isn't just another ordinary funhouse, and they are gonna have to face their fears and fight for their life if they want to make it out alive. This episode is really fun. It starts with one of the characters carving a jack-o'-lantern, and there's lots of twists and turns. We don't know for sure whether or not the haunted house is real, or if it's actually haunted, or just some elaborate scheme. And neither do the characters themselves. But the funhouse is really neat, and all of the rooms are very different and creative. Camp Lake Bottom is a very underrated show, and this is one of my favorite episodes, and it's definitely worth watching around the spooky season. Phineas and Ferb, Drusselsteinoween. Try saying that 5 times fast. Drusselsteinoween, 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 Drudel. See, it can't be done. When Vanessa learns that Doofenshmirtz has inherited a castle from his great aunt, she seizes the opportunity to throw the biggest Halloween bash ever. Phineas and Ferb have a ton of different Halloween specials, all of which are incredible, so it was hard to pick just one to talk about. But I feel like this episode in particular often gets overlooked and forgotten. Doofenshmirtz inherits a whole castle from his great aunt, and asks Perry the Platypus for help searching for the treasure hidden within the castle. And Doofenshmirtz's daughter Vanessa decides to throw a giant Halloween costume party, and she hires Phineas and Ferb to help with the party, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. A funny little Easter egg in this special is that Vanessa dresses up as a vampire queen, and the voice actress of Vanessa also voices Marceline the Vampire Queen in Adventure Time. I like this episode a lot, because it's so different from your typical Phineas and Ferb episode. Candace isn't trying to bust Phineas and Ferb, they aren't building something or doing anything crazy, and neither is Perry and Doofenshmirtz. All of them are just casually hanging out and having a fun time together. And this episode has some awesome songs, as always. I really think Phineas and Ferb have the best songs out of any animated TV show ever. There might be 104 days of summer vacation, but nothing compares to Halloween. It's the very best special occasion. Okay, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't just pick one Phineas and Ferb Halloween special to talk about. So I'm also including the episode titled, That's the Spirit. Phineas, Ferb, Candace, and their friends are enlisted to help a boy rid his house of ghosts. Meanwhile, Doofenshmirtz becomes a were-cow. The Halloween atmosphere and eerie ambiance in this episode is fantastic. This special starts with Phineas, Ferb, and Candace trick-or-treating, and their Halloween costumes are perfectly fitting for each of their characters. Phineas is Dracula, Ferb is Frankenstein's monster, and Candace is Dorothy from Wizard of Oz. They meet up with Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet, but also meet a nervous, scared young boy they've never seen before. He swears his house is horribly haunted, and he needs help from Phineas and Ferb to stop the spirits from haunting his home. But once inside his house, they become trapped and get chased by a pumpkin-headed monster. This is probably one of the creepiest episodes of the whole show. There's an army of zombie skeletons and a river of blood. There's also a pretty great twist ending. And the side story is about Perry the Platypus trying to help Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who has accidentally mutated himself into a were-cow. So whenever there's a full moon, Doofenshmirtz turns into a monstrous man-cow and gets hunted by an angry mob. Both stories in this episode are pretty great. The Phineas and Ferb story is scary and Halloweeny, and the Doofenshmirtz and Perry story is silly, fun, and hilarious. This is the best Phineas and Ferb Halloween special, and I don't think that's a secret. So I definitely recommend watching That's the Spirit. Pickle and Peanut, Trick or Treat. When Pickle and Peanut get caught trick-or-treating by Laser and Hot Beth, they try to cover it up by putting together a last-minute Halloween party. If you don't already know by now, I'm one of the few people who actually really loved Pickle and Peanut. And if you haven't ever seen the show, it's basically like Uncle Grandpa mixed with regular show. And that probably sounds terrible, but it's actually a really great series, and they surprisingly got away with a lot of inappropriate humor. So this special starts with Pickle and Peanut meeting up to go trick-or-treating together. One of them was gonna dress up as a phone, and the other one was gonna dress up as a finger, so they could be a hand tapping on a phone screen. But they got things mixed up, and both ended up accidentally dressing as fingers. So they decide just to be a peace sign together. They go trick-or-treating like they planned, but get embarrassed by some popular kids. So they make up a lie saying they aren't trick-or-treating, and they are only dressed up because they're throwing a Halloween party. They quickly try to throw together a last-minute Halloween party, and they need some spooky music, so they play an old vinyl record backwards. But the record starts bleeding, and it accidentally opens a portal to the underworld. So the party gets crashed by demons, and now everyone is in danger. This episode is funny, scary, and totally insane. Pickle and Peanut might not be for everyone, but it's crazy, fun, hilarious, and very experimental. So at least give it a try before you start hating on it like everyone else does. And also, don't ever play records backwards, or they might start bleeding. Instead, watch some scary shows and go trick-or-treating. And now, the #1 best animated Disney XD Halloween special, and one of the best Halloween specials of all time is Gravity Falls, Summerween. Dipper and Mabel are visited by a monster named the Summerween Trickster, who informs them they must collect 500 pieces of candy or be eaten alive. This is one of the best episodes of the whole show, and that's saying a lot. If you're trying to get someone you know to start watching Gravity Falls, this is a great episode to show them, just so they can get an idea of what the characters are like and what the show is about. Gravity Falls is my #1 favorite animated TV show of all time, and even though the whole TV series takes place during summer, the creator of the show was clever enough to figure out a way to incorporate Halloween into summertime. The people of Gravity Falls love Halloween so much they celebrate it twice a year, once in October and once in June. And as an alternative of carving pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns, they carve watermelons instead. One of the best parts about this episode is the local legend of the Summerween Trickster. He kinda reminds me of Slender Man, but he's also pretty similar to Sam from Trick or Treat, because he's always watching from the shadows, and if you break the rules or traditions of Halloween, he comes after you. I'm probably a nerd for admitting this, but I think the Summerween Trickster is genuinely unsettling and creepy. But that's pretty much the case for every single monster within Gravity Falls. There's also a very funny, truthful, and accurate story in this episode that is incorporated into the backstory of the Summerween Trickster. And it's about what the characters refer to as loser candy. It's all the candy at the bottom of the bowl that nobody ever eats. The lame candy that nobody really likes, and so it ends up getting thrown away. And it's pretty hilarious because I definitely got a lot of knockoff, off-brand loser candy as a kid when I went trick-or-treating. And it always ended up getting thrown away at the end of the year. All of the costumes in this episode are incredible, but the best ones are definitely Dipper and Mabel's costumes. They dress up as peanut butter and jelly jars, and they look super adorable. And that leads me to what is probably my favorite part about this episode. And that is the relatable, sad, heartfelt story about growing up. A lot of Gravity Falls episodes deal with how scary the unknown can be, more specifically, the unknown future, and having to mature and grow up, and not being able to be a child anymore. And I think this is one of the episodes that does that the best. Dipper and Mabel are excited to go trick-or-treating together, but Dipper gets embarrassed when Robbie makes fun of him for trick-or-treating. Dipper, of course, doesn't want Wendy to think of him as a child, so he tries to get out of going trick-or-treating. But then the Summerween Trickster shows up and forces Dipper, Mabel, and all of their friends to collect 500 pieces of candy before the night is over, or die trying. All night long, Dipper is rushing everyone and trying to get trick-or-treating over with. He doesn't want Mabel to know that he doesn't want to go trick-or-treating anymore because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. But he doesn't want Wendy to find out that he is trick-or-treating because he's embarrassed. I related to this episode a lot when I first saw it. I think I was 14 years old the last year I went trick-or-treating, and I knew my sister was over it, and she was already growing up, So I felt kind of embarrassed, like I probably shouldn't be trick-or-treating still, but I didn't want to give up my childhood yet. But even though this episode does have a deep message about growing up, it's still a lot of fun. Grunkle Stan trying to scare the obnoxious kids trick-or-treating at the Mystery Shack is absolutely hilarious. This special also has some great Halloween-y atmosphere. And the ending of this special is absolutely perfect. I love seeing the whole family watching scary movies and eating candy together. I think that's what Halloween is all about. So whether you're a kid, an adult, or a teen, you will definitely love watching Gravity Falls Summerween. Well, everybody, that's the end of my list. I hope you enjoyed my treats and tricks. Let me know if you check out any of these Halloween specials, and look out for demons trying to use you as a vessel. I hope your October is filled with laughter and screams. Until next year, happy Halloween.